In this video, I'm going to go over the motion actuator in UPBGE. So, using the motion actuator, you can make an object move or rotate along 3 different axes. The Z-axis, the Y-axis, or the X-axis. So let's start by giving this cube some keyboard actuator sensors for up arrow, down arrow, right arrow, left arrow. And let's get some motion actuators. When you press up arrow, it's going to go forward on the y-axis, negative on the y-axis for the down arrow, right arrow, and left arrow. So now let's press P to play the game. We can move this cube around, and that's great, but there are many more options for the motion actuator, and I will show you them. So let's press escape, and I'll open up these two ones for the right and left arrows. And instead of moving right, when I press the right arrow key, I'm going to set this to 0 and instead make the cube rotate to the right. And I'll do the same for the left one, except 2 instead of -2. So now when I press P to play the game, I can rotate the cube and move around. And now there is something in the options of a motion actuator. It's this, the local option. So if it's checked, it's local. Right now it's set on local, but if I click it, it'll be set to global motion instead of local. So the difference between global and local motion is that global motion is referring to motion that will always point this way. Global motion will always be this way, Y will always point this way, and X will point this way, and Z will always point that way globally. Local is just referring to the object's axis in its direction. So if I rotate this cube, its personal Y-axis is this way, but the global axis is that way. So I'll set the rotation back to 0. And let's see what happens if I make it global motion forward and backward instead of local. And when I do that, if I turn, no matter which way I'm facing, when I press the up arrow or down arrow, it will always go in this direction. But I want them to be local, so I'll just click them. Now, there's down here the dynamic object settings, which will only be visible for dynamic objects, rigid body objects, or soft body objects. If I set it to like a character, they won't be visible. But I wanted dynamic so I can see these. So I'm going to give it some motion under 4. So I'll just give it some 2 and set this to 0. Actually, I'll make it 10. And then when I play the game, I can move, and then the momentum of the motion will carry it on a little further after I've stopped pressing the keyboard button. I'll set this to 0 and also try the same for linear velocity. Set this to 0.2. And I'll set this to local. Play, okay, it's going pretty slowly. I'll check this, the add option, and it goes much faster. So let's just set this to 0.3. Okay, it's pretty similar to the force motion. Now we can actually go to the rotation for the right arrow, and instead of using simple rotation, I'm going to do a little bit of torque. So now it keeps spinning after I've done pressing the keyboard. It keeps spinning for quite a while. I can also do angular velocity. I'll make this local. And it also keeps spinning after I'm done pressing the keyboard, similar to the torque option. Now, I'm going to do, instead of simple motion, we can change this to servo control. And the first thing you want to do is select the object that is doing the motion. In this case, it is named cube. The motion works a lot better if you select the object that's doing the motion for the reference object. Now you've done that, you can make it do some motion. I'll just do it a little bit on the Y. You can choose whether it's local or not. I want it to be local. And we can play. I'll hold down the mouse on the up arrow. I can go forward. You can increase how fast it increases, how fast it gains its momentum, how fast it gains speed right here. It'll gain speed a lot faster if you increase that. You can also set limits to the amount of motion it can do. So then it won't go as fast. If you don't want it to get too fast, you can put limits on it. You can also change this from linear to angular. And then it's much the same as the linear one, except instead of moving, it spins. And you can increase how fast it gains its momentum and put limits to how fast it can spin if you want to. So, and the last one on here is character motion. Character motion, just basically the same as simple motion, except it's got this little jump option here. So if we actually just get another keyboard for space, get another motion, switch it to character motion and click jump. Now we play and we press space, it will do absolutely nothing because it's not a character. Character motion jumping only works on characters, so if we switch this to a character, it'll jump. And there's options right here, so you can increase or decrease the jump height and change the amount of jumps. You can make it jump 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And that's what you can do with the character motion. And so that is everything for this tutorial.